Blog Talk Radio.
All right, good afternoon and Happy New Year, everybody. Our second show of ATL Prime Sports this 2021 year, and our first on Blog Talk Radio. I'm Todd Corder along with Mark Mancini in Los Angeles, JJ on the other side of the ATL, and our famous producer in Memphis, Wayne. Gentlemen, Happy New Year. Let's go around the table and see how you can get a hold of each other. Myself, you can get a hold of all of us at ATL Prime Sports. You can get a hold of me at Corder, C-O-R-D-E-R. Todd, JJ, tell the folks where they can get a hold of you quickly.
At JJ Get You One on Twitter. JJ Get You One.
Wayne, tell the folks where they can get a hold of you. You're our trusty producer. You're the glue of the show.
That would be at RWYJUNIOR on Twitter.
That would be Junior. All right, Mark out in Los Angeles, tell me how they can get a hold of you on Twitter or elsewise.
You can get a hold of me at mancinisports@yahoo.com, and I'm just so blessed and honored to be a part of this great show with you guys here every week.
Well, we're blessed and honored to have you. And all right, guys, 2021, as you know, 2020 was an awful year, and 2021 is not looking great thus far. And we have some very sad news from the sports world, from the Major League Baseball world, and more importantly, the world of Los Angeles Dodgers. Tommy Lasorda today. He passed away Thursday night. It just came across the wire about an hour or so. He suffered a cardiopulmonary arrest at his home on Thursday night. He was taken to the hospital. Unfortunately, he was pronounced dead an hour later. And guys, baseball lost a great man, a great manager. And when you think of the Dodgers, that is one of the first things I think of. Growing up in the 70s and 80s, loved watching the Dodgers play. As we know, Tommy Lasorda managed the Dodgers from 76 to 96, winning 2 World Series titles, 4 National League pennants, 8 division crowns. He was the NL Manager of the Year twice, and he won just 1 game shy of 1,600. And, guys, these are the golden old days of baseball. Lasorda's baseball career was interrupted in 46 and 47 because of military service with the U.S. Army, and he returned in 48. Guys, tell me what you think. The first thing that comes out of your mind when it comes to Tommy Lasorda. Mark, you go first.
Well, I would think right off the bat his personality. He just exuded with that. I mean, you never saw this guy really in an angry mood unless he was dealing with, an umpire, Joe West or Henry Wendelstedt or one of those guys. But, the guy was jovial. He liked his pasta after the games, and, he was really energetic, and he brought the Dodgers to the forefront. And it almost seemed like when the Dodgers would come to town, it was almost like that Yankee go-home method. It was a swagger about that team coming into some of the eastern cities.
JJ, what's the first thing that comes into mind for you? You're a little bit younger, but you know the name Tommy Lasorda.
Absolutely. I think one of the guys that could argue with the best of them, as Mancini mentioned. I think Dodgers legend, 2 World Series titles, 4 National League pennants, 8 division titles. Again, rest in peace, prayers with the family, the Lasorda family, and the Dodgers family. One of the few remaining ties to the Brooklyn Dodgers. It really is a sad day for baseball in general. And again, a Dodger legend, sad day, and that's what I think of Tommy Lasorda. Dodger legend. He is on the Mount Rushmore of Dodgers baseball. Very sad day today.
Very sad, and well said. Wayne, what do you think of Tommy Lasorda? What's the first thing that comes to your mind about the great Dodgers manager?
Well, I started playing baseball in Little League in the 70s and then followed Major League Baseball from that point on. And, Tommy Lasorda was among the highest praised names that I remember talking about as far as professional baseball goes. And the only other one that we ever talked about was Billy Martin, and both those guys are gone now. And it's a hole left in the my baseball hearts. I'll say that.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned the very end of that arguing with Billy Martin, because on the Philadelphia Phillies alumni podcast hosted by 1980 World Series champion Warren Brewster, Mark Mancini, and myself, we just talked about Tommy Lasorda a little bit on the show, and that him and Billy Martin were gathering up old Dodgers and old Yankees, and they were getting ready to go at it, and God was going to have be out there, be the umpire to try to keep some of these guys in check while they're playing each other. Even in heaven, their tempers are going to get a little up. So it's a sad day for Major League Baseball, and thanks for mentioning the end of that. And yes, our thoughts and prayers are with Tommy Lasorda and his family. All right, guys, that was not our number one story, but it is now, thanks to what happened to Tommy Lasorda. Let's move on, and let's talk college football, which is our specialty. We're going to be on every week. I was just informed, from 1 to 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time live. You can listen to us at 1-347-205-9631 or blogtalkradio.com. We do not take any callers, but if you go ahead and send us a note, we'll be glad to respond to you on the air. We're also we have a tape delayed show. We're on every Monday, and we put it out on our Twitter feed on Tuesday, and you can go get that on YouTube. Just check our Twitter handles there, and check on ATL Prime Sports. Press the link, and you can get that show. And guys, let's move on to Alabama versus Ohio State. One of the major stories this week is Jalen Waddle is back practicing. That's a big story to me, because if he can play and he can be effective, Ohio State's not only going to have to cover him, but they're going to have to cover Heisman Trophy winner, the Heisman Trophy winner, the other Heisman Trophy wide receiver out of Alabama, Devontae Smith. And boy, pick your poison there. Of course, we don't know if Waddle's going to be 100%, but my thoughts are, JJ, I want you to talk about this first. I don't think Nick Saban's going to put him out there if he's not ready to go. But if he's practicing the way Nick Saban's history is, it looks like he's going to play.
Yeah, I think if he practices and he's effective, he'll play. If not, he'll be maybe a 1 or 2 play decoy. But hopefully he's healthy enough to play, because I want to see this. But
anyway, you know what? I don't think Nick Saban's going to. He's not going to put him out there to be a decoy at all. This guy's going to be a star receiver in the NFL, and he's either going to play him or he's not.
Yeah, that's not what I said. Like I said, if he's healthy enough, he'll play. If not, I don't think he'll be thrown out there to be a decoy unless he wants to play 1 or 2 plays, kind of like Richard LeCount was saying, and I was cut off there by my daughter. But no, that's a big if. But I think if he's healthy enough to play, if he practices well, TC, I think he'll be an effective player in Monday night's matchup.
Yeah, you mentioned Richard LeCount, who plays for Georgia, who's going to play on Sunday in the NFL. Mark, what are your thoughts on Jalen Waddle practicing this week and getting ready to play?
Tell you, I think he's ready to go. And when you look at college football, let's face it, Alabama's the bar and everybody's chasing it. When we get into this thing, and I'll throw a little teaser in this, I don't think Ohio State belongs in this thing. They should have never been in the top 4 with a 6-0 record. What Clemson should have done was take the playbook from Northwestern on how to corral these guys. Texas A&M should have been in it. And when we get into more of the show, I'm going to tell you why I don't think Ohio State belongs in it, and the hype train that's in Columbus.
All right, well, that'll be our next topic, so that's a teaser for everyone. Mark says Ohio State doesn't belong in the tournament. I strongly disagree. They spanked Clemson up and down the field. They deserve to be in this championship game. That was a master performance by the Ohio State offense. We'll get into that in a minute. Wayne, tell me your thoughts on Jalen Waddle practicing and potentially playing on Monday night.
Yeah, I think he'll definitely play. It's a championship game. Why wouldn't he play? And as far as the matchup between Ohio State and Alabama, we got two undefeated teams, so I'm happy about that. I think Ohio State's biggest chance is they have to be able to control Alabama's passing.
Well, you know what? That's interesting because the matchup, the keys in the matchup are the Bama receivers against that Ohio State secondary, but I can flip the script too and talk about Ohio State's receivers against that Bama secondary because Olave is a critical player, and you know Ohio State didn't have him for the the Big Ten Conference Championship game
against Northwestern.
Notre
Correct.
Dame.
Yeah, you're right. I was just piggybacking off your point. They did not have Chris Olave for the Big Ten title game versus Northwestern.
Right, they did not. So, you know, that to me is huge. And having Chris Olave, who's a heck of a player, but, you know, before we get to Mark's point, the guts of Fields playing at quarterback the way he played after Clemson's, you know, they got to him pretty good. And, you know, he played through that rib injury throwing 6 touchdown passes. That, to me, is one of the guttiest performances I can ever remember a quarterback making in such a big game because he played through the pain. And Justin Fields, to me, guys, he made himself a lot of money coming up in the NFL draft, sticking it out in that game against Clemson. No doubt. I wonder how Justin Fields plays because if his ribs can hold up, guys, I think Ohio State's got a chance. Let's transfer on over because we can all expound on this. On Mark's comment, Mark thinks Ohio State's going to get ran out of the gym, and they don't belong there. So, Mark, tell me why, and then the rest of us will comment on that.
Well, first of all, you know, and you're right about the NFL draft. He's got to get his stock up there. But let's face it, when you look at this NFL draft, it's Trevor Lawrence and everybody else. I mean, Trevor Lawrence is the epitome of an NFL quarterback, big, 6'5", rugged. I mean, hard to bring down. I think what you're looking around in the NFL is you're going to find out the Tuas, the Kyler Murrays, these Haskins guys, and now with Justin Fields, these guys just can't cut it. And the guy like Jared Goff, I'm not a big fan of him either. But when you look at Ohio State, and Wayne brought it up too, you know, yeah, they're undefeated. But when you look at their undefeated record, they snuck in with a 6-0 record. Nobody wanted to bring Coastal Carolina into this. Nobody wanted to bring Cincinnati or Florida or Texas A&M. They're not big money schools to drive into this. This is driven by the networks and greed. So you had to bring Ohio State in. You had to bring Notre Dame in. Now, I believe both these teams are hype trains. Granted, Notre Dame's had some good quarterbacks come out of there, Montana and, you know, Theismann, to name a few. But when you look at the Ohio State program, when was the last time we had an Ohio State quarterback that was worth the darn in the NFL? We haven't seen that. But since they draw good, and, you know, with COVID, you can't really go out, but they're a network draw, so we bring them into the thing. You saw the Alabama game against Notre Dame. They toyed with them, and then they let them come down the field for the bettors to get that game under where if people had Notre Dame in 19, they got it covered. But Ohio State took apart a Clemson team that was beat up from the start. These guys are just worn down. They went out with injuries left and right. They weren't the same. I want to see this game in the trenches because I've heard the hype with Ohio State's defensive front four coming in there to try to corral Alabama's offensive line. Good luck with that. Mac Jones is going to pick them apart. And the only key that I can see Ohio State doing something is throwing on that Alabama secondary. But the Alabama secondary with Surtain is good too. So it's going to be interesting. I just think Alabama rolls these guys by at least 20.
Wow, that's a prediction I have not heard yet. But hey, we didn't think Ohio State would beat Clemson, so we'll see. JJ, your thoughts on the matchup?
You know, I mean, I do think Ohio State deserved to be there. Whether they deserve to be there because of their 6-0 record is a controversy, but I do think they were one of the 4 best teams. I think the controversy there is the Big Ten. They didn't start on time. Justin Fields wanted to. Other players wanted to. I just signified him because he's a significant player, and he really fought for the cause for the Big Ten to play. He's one of the big reasons why they played. So you got to give him credit for that. And they won every game they could, and they were Big Ten champs. Do I like 7 games? No, because, Mark, you mentioned it. Clemson was a little beat up. They'd gone through a full slate of games with the conference championship and the first-round play, and then they were in the first-round playoff game. So they'd played 11, and that was their 12th game. So you look at Ohio State, they played 5 less games at that point. That's a lot less wear and tear on your body, and I think it did show. So they are a top 4 team. But here's the matchup I'm concerned about. It's Mac Jones versus that Ohio State secondary. You can't cover Waddle. You can't cover Smith. You can't cover Mechie. And you can't cover Billingsley all at one time. I do think Alabama will win this game. I think the difference is in the trenches. I think Alabama's just a little bit better. But you mentioned the talent level between these two teams. NFL level, top 5, they're number 1 and number 2 in producing NFL talent in the past 5 years. This should be a good game, but I take Alabama by 10. And I was telling before, and I'll say it again, Alabama's going to have the ball with about 7 minutes remaining. They'll probably kick a field goal, maybe score a touchdown, and then they'll run out the clock. They'll stop Ohio State, and that's what I think is going to happen, guys.
All right, Wayne, what do you think of this matchup, and what's your key?
Well, I'm looking for a lot closer matchup. Ohio State has to be able to control Alabama's passing, and Ohio State should also take advantage of the fact that Alabama's not as good at rushing defense as I think people say they are. It's going to be a closer game, and I'm going to say it's even 50-50. The winner of this game is whoever has the last possession. It's going to be that close.
Well, I like these differences of opinions. We've got Mark in a blowout, JJ about a 10-point game, and we have Wayne, whoever has the ball last. And speaking of the ball, on the offensive side of the ball from Bama, in total offense, they're 1. You see the opponents that Bama's played on a regular basis, 10 of them in the SEC, plus the semifinal against Notre Dame. They gave up, 228 points in 10 games. That's an average of 19 a game, and that includes facing some great offenses in A&M, Florida, Ole Miss, and Notre Dame. Let's face it, Notre Dame does have a great offense. They just weren't on sync that day. They couldn't get it going out of the free tight end set. They were able to run the football some, but what hurt Notre Dame in that game is they didn't have speed on the perimeter. You guys mentioned Ohio State and their schedule. It is what it is. COVID wreaked havoc. JJ mentioned the fact that the Big Ten hurt Ohio State, and there's no question they did. But the key is, I'm with Wayne. I think whoever gets the ball last is going to win this game. And Bama scored 578 points in 12 games. That's 48 a game. I expect a shootout of 40-something to 40-something. And I'm with Wayne. I think Ohio State's a really good football team. And I tell you what, if they get that sermon going and he finds his congregation in the Alabama end zone, we are going to be nick and tuck. And I haven't seen an Ohio State back romp like that. And Sermon came out of nowhere. This wasn't the where he expected it like he did out of Ezekiel Elliott and et cetera. Sermon, to me, found his wheels, and if he can find it for one more game, he's going to make some money later on in the NFL. Speaking of the NFL, all right, we're going to go to that. One moment, let's reshift the show here. You're listening to ATL Prime Sports with myself, Todd Corder, Mark Mancini in Los Angeles, JJ on the other side of the ATL, and our producer, Wayne, in Memphis. And you can also listen to our show on Tuesday on a tape delay on YouTube. Just go to ATL Prime Sports or my Twitter feed or Wayne or JJ's. Hit the logo there and bring it up, and you can listen to it. And we're live now every Friday from 1 to 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. All right, back to the NFL, guys. We got about 10 minutes left in the show. Pick a game you're most interested in seeing and why. And, Mark, I'm going to go to you first.
Well, I kind of figured the NFL would go this route. You know, they were going to put Tom Brady on the primetime slot, and I figured the Steelers were going to go on a primetime slot. The only thing is I didn't know which day it was going to be, so I'm really excited of the Tampa and Washington. And a lot of people, you know, are standing here talking about the Redskins, and, you know, they kind of backed into this thing, and, you know, the Eagles laid down. I totally disagree. This is a great NFL story considering the name change, considering the sexual misconduct allegations with cheerleaders and season ticket holders in a foreign country. You see the Ron Rivera, you see the Alex Smith situation where he came back, blowing out, Haskins out of Washington, partying without a mask in a stripped, hall there. So it's a great story, and I think when you look at Tampa Bay, yeah, they have an offense that can take them out. But if anybody was going to give the Buccaneers a run for their money out of these four teams in the NFC East, it's got to be the Redskins, and that Redskins front four is going to have to play up to par. They're going to have to get that secondary, and if you look at it, I take this from where Tampa Bay had to play Chicago. Brady has problems with defenses that come right at you, and the Redskins can come at you. I'm not saying they're going to win. I think they'll be make it a close game. They'll fall a little short, but it's a great year in Washington.
You mentioned the Redskins in Tampa, in Tampa Bay, and Young, the defensive end for Ohio State, said, "I want Tom Brady. I want Tom Brady." Well, he's going to get Tom Brady. We'll find out if he can get to him. But if he can't, because Brady gets rid of it as quick as anybody, it could be a long night for Washington. But you're right, Mark. Washington has a very good defense. It's a great story. We all know about the quarterback Smith story with the leg and the surgeries and et cetera. So that's an interesting matchup. I like that answer. JJ, what's your most interesting matchup and why?
Well, mine was also the Bucks and Washington, but I'll move on to my secondary matchup. And mainly for me, it was because of the Chase Young comments. The guy's a rookie, very poised player. Expect that to be a good game as well. I did pick Washington to cover the spread. I think Tampa Bay will win. I'll go to my secondary matchup of the day, and to me, it's got to be the Rams and the Seahawks. Why? Well, I'll tell you. It's Russell Wilson and it's DK Metcalf. They are very exciting at the beginning of the season. Here in the second half, they've kind of faltered. They've relied on Chris Carson in the running game. To me, it's going to be a matter of, does Jared Goff start, or does the backup quarterback John Walford get in, and is he effective? Those are a lot of question marks in the game. I like Russell Wilson and the Seattle Seahawks to cover that 3.5-point spread at home. I think they'll probably win by a touchdown. I think DK Metcalf and Russell Wilson do get back on the same page, and they do become that dominant force they were at the beginning half of the season. And that's my secondary, most important matchup of the day. And I will finish off with a stat about the Washington and the Tampa Bay game. Tom Brady is 4-4 when he gets sacked more than 3 times in a playoff game. So, Washington, that is your key to victory. If you get pressure on Tom, he does falter.
Any quarterback falters when you get pressure on him. The key is, can you get it? And we'll find out. That's going to be an interesting matchup on Saturday night. I liked your secondary matchup also. Thank you for that. Wayne, what's the game you're looking for most forward to? I've got to guess. I know you're going further south. Go ahead.
Well, maybe not. I'm picking two upsets, one NFC and one AFC. My NFC upset is going to be Los Angeles over Seattle, and my AFC upset is going to be Cleveland over Pittsburgh.
Ooh, all right. You mentioned it. Tell us why.
Well, I don't like Seattle for one, and I think Cleveland is a better all-around team than Pittsburgh, who I feel like is getting a little tired.
Ooh, all right. As they say in the South, them's fighting words, because my most interesting game, and I've been married to this young lady for 30 years. She's a huge Steeler fan, is the Browns-Steelers game. And as you guys know from the prior show, I better pick Pittsburgh or she's coming after me. So I think when it comes to Pittsburgh, it all comes down to Big Ben. The Steelers go as he goes, and if he's firing darts all over that field and he he can extend plays with his legs and his magic arm, I think Cleveland's in trouble. Flip the script from the Browns side, guys. To me, it's about Nick Chubb. Can Cleveland get Nick Chubb going? Now they've got COVID problems with the team. Kevin Stefanski, the head coach, is not going to be coaching along with some other members of the coaching staff. So, this to me is a factor in the game because Stefanski is not only the head coach, but he calls the plays. Now you're having a different play caller coming into this game. We'll see how that affects the game. But I like Pittsburgh at home, and I like them big. My wife, Lisa, if you're listening, I know you're happy with me. All right, guys, we got about less than 4 minutes to go to the show here on ATL Prime Sports. I'm Todd Corder along with Mark Mancini in Los Angeles, JG on the other side of the ATL, and Wayne, our producer in the great city of Memphis. All right, guys, we mentioned our pivotal matchup for the NFL. Let's give another matchup that we like very quickly. And why? Well,
I'll tell you that the one I like more or less is the other one is I like the Cleveland-Pittsburgh, and I'll go against Wayne on this. I think Pittsburgh is just too strong. I don't think Cleveland can come back after beating them last week when it really didn't mean nothing for Pittsburgh. They'll have a healthy Big Ben Roethlisberger in tow. The game's in Pittsburgh. The Browns are battling COVID problems. Their coach is going to be out. Love Baker Mayfield, but I think the Steelers really take it to the Browns. Welcome to the playoffs after 18 years, now go home.
JJ, what's yours?
Well, I'll tell you what. I'm looking forward to the AFC 4 and 5 matchup where the Titans host the Ravens. I want to see if Lamar Jackson has any shock and awe factor left in him from last year's one and done. I think Derrick Henry and company are extremely hard to beat. Arthur Smith has that team playing extremely well, the offensive coordinator and the offensive line coach. I think Tennessee's going to win that game. Another storyline I'm looking forward to this week, folks, we got 6 of 7 female NFL coaches coaching in the playoffs this weekend. Amazing strides for the NFL, amazing strides for women everywhere. As I now have a daughter, I think that is amazing. Keep it up, women. Keep it up, NFL. I'm giving you a round of applause. That is something to look forward to.
Oh, there's no doubt about it. That is something to look forward to. And I believe out of San Francisco, the young lady that was coaching the 49ers for 4 years, Katie Sowers, she's not returning to the Niners. She was on the coaching staff last year when San Francisco went to the Super Bowl and just fell short to the Kansas City Chiefs. Wayne, we got about a minute and 50 left in the show. What's the other matchup you're looking forward to?
Well, of course, the Baltimore-Tennessee matchup. And even though I am a longtime University of Memphis fan, I've got to say Tennessee replacing Gostkowski with that rookie kicker was a great move. Should have done it earlier in the year. But the Baltimore-Tennessee game probably the exciting one.
Me, I'm looking forward to Buffalo-Indianapolis. Think about that, guys. What a great career Phillip Rivers has had. Is this his last game? If they lose, does he come back and play another season? And, Phillip Rivers has been knocking on that playoff door forever. And, can he get it done? I mean, to me, that is a huge story. I mean, this guy's had one heck of a statistical career. I think it borders on a Hall of Fame career, and if you look at the stats, he probably will be in the Hall of Fame. Then when you flip the quarterback script and you go over to Josh Allen, what strides he has made this season. He's bringing a Bills team who has not been in the playoffs in over 20 years. Holy cow. So we got some first-timers in that haven't been in a long time. Tampa Bay and Buffalo. We've got the matchup in New Orleans. Nobody mentioned that. Let's see how Drew Brees' health goes. And I expect the Saints to beat the Bears. Guys, it's been a great show. We're out of time. Thank all of you. Want to thank Wayne on the other side of, on the side of Memphis. On the other side. He is on the other side. He's just west of me in Memphis. JG on the other side of the ATL. Mark Mancini in Los Angeles. I'm Todd Corder. See you next week from 1 to 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Good afternoon, everybody.
Get you one.